This town is so haunted they had to permanently close it to the public. This is Dudleytown, Connecticut. Dudleytown, Connecticut is a haunted, abandoned town in Cornwall, Connecticut, and has a creepy history. Visitors who have explored there say that once they enter, it's otherworldly in there. Creepy. First of all, it's reportedly completely silent. You can't hear birds, animals, bugs, nothing. A researcher compared entering the heart of Dudleytown to standing inside a recording studio booth. Another common complaint from visitors is that a lot of the photos they take in Dudleytown won't develop, but as soon as they leave, their cameras will work just fine. Which makes sense, as I had a really hard time finding really any photos of Dudleytown when I was researching. The creepy legend of the town is years ago, the Dudley family fled to the US after one of their family members was taken care of after plotting against King Henry VIII. They settled in Connecticut and the bad luck followed. Residents of Dudleytown began suffering a series of devastating crop failures and mental illness was rampant in the village. There were countless mysterious disappearances within the village and all-around chaos overwhelmed Dudleytown. By the early 1900s, it was completely abandoned. For fans of the Conjuring films based on paranormal investigators Ed and Lorraine Warren, the two visited Dudleytown and outright declared that it was extremely haunted and controlled by something terrifying. Investigators agreed that Dudleytown is some kind of a portal. But here's where it goes from spooky to downright bizarre. The owners, the Dark Entry Forest Association, closed Dudleytown to the public and don't do anything to dispel the rumors. In fact, they refuse to be interviewed for the most part, and the owners go to great lengths to conceal their identities. On top of that, if you are caught trespassing in Dudleytown, you will be heavily prosecuted. This is so strange to me. We see so many other ghost towns around the world, and usually they keep these places open for tourism. You know, profit off the history and the spookiness. But for some reason, this association wants to keep people out of Dudleytown altogether. A paranormal researcher said there's some kind of secret that they are keeping there, and they want people to stay out. What are your thoughts? This has been requested a couple times. Has anyone ever been? Or are there any towns by you that you find to be really creepy? This creepy haunted town has been on fire for 60 years. This is Centralia, Pennsylvania. In abandoned Centralia, roads that once led to neighborhoods occupied by happy families now lead nowhere. Centralia's fire is one of America's worst and most devastating to date, but how did it start? Back in the early 20th century, Centralia was booming. It had 14 active coal mines and thousands of residents. Until 1962, a fire was lit in the town dump, and that fire spread beneath the entire valley. Soon, residents began complaining of a foul odor. But people weren't aware of what a big problem it was until 1979, when a gas station owner measured the temperature of the gas in his underground containers. And it was more than 100 degrees above normal. Following this, on Valentine's Day 1981, a sinkhole opened up beneath a resident one day. He survived by grabbing onto an exposed tree root, but after this, a lot of people packed up and left. But some didn't. Arguments, fighting, and tension between neighbors was the norm. The local newspaper began publishing a weekly list of people who were leaving. In the following years, the fire continued to burn around the community, increasing the levels of carbon monoxide gases to dangerous levels. Residents were passing out in their homes, and roads and sidewalks began to buckle. Smoke constantly spews out of the ground, and there's been numerous attempts to put it out and stop the fire, but all unsuccessful. By 1990, only 63 residents remained. In 2006, Lamar Mervine, the then 90-year-old mayor of Centralia, said people had learned to live with it. Quote, "We had other fires before, and they'd always burned out. This one didn't." As of 2012, there were only 10 people left. Today, the town is creepy to walk through. Its streets have sidewalks, curbs, and sewers without any homes. During visits, many come back with terrifying stories. One of the most common accounts is hearing inaudible voices from down below. Visitors have reported hearing haunting voices say, "Leave this place." So these voices are coming from beneath, where the fire is burning. Ugh. The blaze is still going 6 decades later, and walking through the town is now supposedly quite haunting and a lesson in the power of nature. Not only did it inspire Silent Hill, the town truly looks like a creepy gateway. Have you ever been to this tragic town, and what spooky places do you want to see next? The most toxic ghost town in America. This is Picher, Oklahoma. Back in its heyday in the 1920s, Picher was a booming lead and zinc mining community. But today, the town no longer exists. Picher sits a quarter mile off Route 66 and was thriving in its time. Flourishing economy, schools, mining was a way of life for these people. And the contaminated waste from the mines, known as chat, well, people in the town would ride their bikes over this stuff and fill their sandboxes with it. They had no idea that it was completely toxic, but over time, many began to notice the severe impact it was having on the town's health. Just stepping outside your front door was risky, and by the 1970s, the groundwater was contaminated, and Picher was covered in sinkholes.
What a lovely front yard you have here.
The population dwindled, and the final straw came in 2008 when a tornado blew through town. The EPA implemented a buyout for residents, and almost everyone took them up on this and relocated. Millions of dollars has been spent trying to clean up the town, but in 2009, the EPA evacuated Picher, deeming it unlivable. It's earned the title of one of the most polluted places in America. That same year, Picher Carton High School graduated its last class of 11 students.
It's been one of the only places in the entire world that has been deemed uninhabitable.
The Burger Basket, proclaimed the last place in Picher, was demolished in 2011.
If you noticed, I said almost everyone took them up on relocating. Almost.
Some stayed in Picher after the evacuation, loyal to their hometown and calling themselves chat rats. In 2015, Gary Linderman, known as the last man standing in Picher, passed at 60 from a sudden illness. Gary was called Lights Out Linderman for his pledge to stay and work at his old miner pharmacy as his friends, family, and neighbors gave up on the town. Nowadays, Picher is a genuine ghost town, but many still make the trip to visit. Hauntingly, homes and cars still sit there, abandoned. The rivers run red,
and the buildings could drop into a sinkhole at any second. Sounds homey, doesn't it? I know you all will have a lot to say on this one. What are your thoughts?